The Arizona State Fair has been held at the fairgrounds on 19th Avenue and McDowell for over 100 years. 20 years before the fairground was built on McDowell, however, the earliest Arizona Territorial Fairs were held during the 1880s at a fairground located on Central Avenue in Phoenix. This first fairground was constructed in 1884 near the Salt River, about a half-mile south of Buckeye Road, between Central and 7th Avenues. On this 1903 map, the oval 1-mile racetrack outlined in red marks the location of the original fairground in Phoenix. When the fair was active, a grandstand, an exhibit hall, stables, and corrals were present. If you have lived in Phoenix for very long, you have probably driven through and around this first fairground many times. Here is an aerial view of the fairground as it looks today, showing I-17 passing through its northern edge. This section of I-17 runs east to west between the Durango Curve and its junction with I-10. The fairground covered 80 acres from Durango Street on the north to Watkins on the south, and Central to 7th Avenue from east to west. There were 7 fairs held at this early fairground between 1884 and 1890. Although legally named the Arizona Industrial Exposition, the event was usually referred to in the newspaper as the Territorial Fair or simply the Fair. Arizona was not yet a state, and the fair was open to participation and attendance from all areas of the Arizona Territory. The events showcased the products of the territory to encourage immigration and help Arizona on its road toward statehood. Most of the fairs were held during the month of October, and the majority lasted 5 or 6 days, much shorter than the month-long state fair that we hold now. Some of the activities at the early fairs were similar to those held today, such as judging animal, agricultural, and other exhibits. Cash prizes, ranging from $1 to $50, and silver and bronze medals were awarded to winners in over 100 categories during show week. At the first fair in 1884, Phoenix Dr. R.L. Rawson, owner of the Rawson House at Heritage Square, won a second-place premium for his 1,800-pound milking cow named Sis. Entertainment at the early fairs was different than today, without the Ferris wheel and most other carnival rides that had yet to be invented by the late 1880s. In the mornings on fair days, running races, bicycle races, baseball games, rodeo, and other events and demonstrations were held. Each afternoon was devoted to horse racing, the most popular event at the fair. Gambling was allowed, and harness racing, both pacers and trotters, was the favored version of this sport. One of the most memorable demonstrations at these fairs was Lucius D. Copeland's ride on his steam engine-powered high-wheeled bicycle. Copeland rode his bike for 20 minutes, but claimed that he could have traveled for 3 times as long on one engine charge while reaching top speeds of 12 to 14 miles per hour. This event is sometimes cited as the earliest practical demonstration of a motorcycle, although the modern motorcycle did not derive from this invention of Copeland's. A few years later, at the 1888 fair, a 6-foot 7-inch tall cowboy from Payson arrived in Phoenix and took first place in 2 steer roping events. His name was Charles Meadows, but within a few years he came to be better known worldwide as Arizona Charlie. Charlie was an excellent steer roper and show cowboy who spent many years with Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. Charlie also had his own Wild West show, spent time in Mexico bullfighting, and prospected and built a hotel in the Yukon. He spent his Arizona years living in both the Payson and Yuma areas. He is probably the only local cowboy to have a hotel and casino named after him, Arizona Charlie's, with 2 locations in Las Vegas and Nevada. The territorial fairs at the earliest fairgrounds ended in 1890. They were popular and well supported in the Phoenix and Salt River Valley area during their run. These are Victorian trade cards, the 1880s version of business cards, which promoted the fair locally. The imprint on the front reads, "I am going to the Territorial Fair, Phoenix, Arizona, October 15 to 20, 1888. The cards were distributed by at least 2 local merchants. The fairs were not well attended by those living in areas outside of the valley, probably because Phoenix was a difficult place to get to during the 1880s. There was no railroad access until 1887, and even after this was in place, it only helped those living near the Southern Pacific Line from Yuma to Tucson. Residents of Prescott, Globe, Flagstaff, and other towns north and east of Phoenix still had a difficult time getting to the fair. Low attendance made the fair unprofitable, and despite cost-cutting measures such as reducing the run to 4 days in 1889 and 1890, the organizers were unable to pay their bills for the October 1890 event. A few months later, the Salt River February 1891 flood damaged the fairgrounds. It is not known whether the owners had already canceled future fairs by this time or decided not to repair the damage because the fair was not making a profit. The fairground, or at least the racetrack, was rebuilt and leased to another group who held horse races there in December of 1891. Over the next decade, the old fairgrounds became the place in Phoenix where horse races and occasional rodeos were held. Smaller sporting events moved to a new park at the end of the trolley line near 16th Street in Jefferson, which was later named Eastlake Park. After 14 years without a fair, new fairgrounds were built at 19th Avenue and McDowell in 1905. The grounds included a new racetrack, which finally made the old 1884 fairgrounds obsolete. Thank you for watching, and be sure to check out our other History of Phoenix videos on YouTube.